All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. Welcome to the Friday live stream. Welcome to George.
Georgia on my mind. Hey, everyone.
How's everybody doing? Hello, members. I see several members in the comments section. Welcome. Welcome to a very good day for Bitcoin, a breakout day for Bitcoin. I think people a little bit disappointed with the Bitcoin miners. Some of them had a great day. Some of them had a good day. Some of them pulled way back off of their highs. But I'm going to say all in all, for me, I'm very satisfied with today. Yes, I know some of these were way higher. You know, in the first half hour of trading, some of the Bitcoin miners were much higher than this. So I get it. That is frustrating. They're making us wait. If everybody could do us a big favor and please smash the like button, we would appreciate it. Bitcoin is rallying as we speak, and it's crossed just in the last really 45 minutes, really just 35 minutes. It's crossed a key level, and if it can hold this, then we might be moving back up into our old trading range. So
old range?
I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll see how you guys are feeling. We got 18 likes. Do us a favor, smash the like button.
Smash it.
Smash the like button. We're doing another ad-free stream, so please help us. I would think people are excited today.
Stream. I will say that I didn't buy any more Bitcoin miners, but I did buy a lot of Bitcoin during this little downturn, Tom.
You bought Bitcoin on the dip. No miners, though, but Bitcoin.
No miners, Bitcoin on the dip.
Well, right now, that's looking like a good decision. This was a big, big up day. I'll just do the math right now real quick while we wait for people to get here and get going. I mean, this was from 8:30, so we'll show you where this all stemmed from. And it was the jobs report, and it was exactly what the market wanted. So immediately, you can see this is a 15-minute candle. So the second the jobs report came out at 8:30, it was just straight to the moon. We were off to the races quickly, and you know we got to a point and kind of traded sideways, and now we're breaking out again from that point. So this was a really big breakout day. So let's just 0%. That's not the answer.
I am making a poll as we speak, Tom. I am making a poll.
Very nice poll incoming.
About the Bitcoin next move.
All right. 5.5% move from 8:30 this morning until today. And we'll look at the one day in a few minutes. We are way off the bottom. Midway, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member. Midway said, I think Iron will have a great month of May. The big difference in market caps between Iron and Cypher doesn't make much sense. Iron should catch up. So that's one of the big ones, right? There is a big difference. We can take a look at those between Iron and Cypher's market cap. And, you know, as Iron gets more and more of these machines online, I think their cost per coin is going to go down relative to their, competitors, not in real dollars. Obviously, we're after the halving, so everybody's cost per coin is going to be higher in the next set of financial statements than the ones we're getting right now. We did get Riot's financial statements. We'll talk about that. They, from a financial statement standpoint, they knocked it out of the park, but I have my, a couple of things I loved, a couple of things I'm still worried about. So, they, just from a profitability standpoint, I mean, there's a lot of these companies in Q1 of 2024 are going to have really nice gap earnings, and we haven't seen that. So it's a weird thing because, this is going to be, are people going to be backward looking, forward looking? Are they going to take both into consideration? Because, we just had the halving. So, are people looking at the economics going forward in the short term? And we assume they'll get better, but we don't know. Or are they going to look at, most of these companies, I think Q1 2024, or the period ended March 31st, I'll say, because, for those not on the calendar year, it'll be different. But the pure net in March 31st is going to be the best quarter that, I would say at least 2/3 of the Bitcoin miners are going to report their best quarter they've ever had in Q1. And Riot just did that. So if we look, let me get to, I don't want to talk about that yet, but let me get to go to Midway's point. If you look at Cypher, their market cap's about $1.2 billion. Iris's market cap, IREN, although they still are Iris Energy, their market cap's around 667 million, so, a little more than half, but a significant difference. And if you look at their monthly operations, I got that open somewhere. Oh, actually, Iris has not reported yet their monthly operations, but what they did report, now where is this? I have this open somewhere. Okay, so they did report on April 29th, they reported that they are now at 9 exahash. So they continue to grow. They're ahead of schedule. So they reported they got to 9 exahash. They expect to get to 10 exahash by the end of May. So, I think they're going to be very competitive as far as the number of coins that they're mining. If we look at month over month. So last month, Iris mined 353 coins, Cypher 316. So they're mining more coins. They're growing their exahash faster. And yet their market cap is significantly less. Both of these companies use a business model where they sell basically all of their Bitcoin to fund operations and growth. So they're similar in that regard. Iris has a lot more growth plans in 2024. So I do think that's the last position I built out for me personally. So, obviously always not financial advice just because I bought it, or maybe Midway or whoever, you guys got to do your own due diligence. But that analysis right there, to briefly, that's kind of why I looked at Iris Energy as maybe undervalued. And
Tom, I lied.
You did?
Yeah.
What?
I actually ended up buying some Iris.
Oh, you did? You bought some Iris. That's
I bought
interesting.
some Iris.
That you didn't even tell me that one. Very nice.
Yeah. I just looked at it and it just was getting beat up because of everything, with the price of Bitcoin going way down, which bothered me. But it seemed like it was the good thing to do at the time.
I felt like it was a good entry point. I can't believe that Bitcoin is just off to the races after the equity markets closed here in the United States. I mean, it was up, and I'm not complaining because it was up big all day. So, I mean, this was a great run, and it's actually very encouraging to see it continue to run, because one of the things that, this was almost all day. We were sitting here, and this line is very important. I'm going to go to the 1 day. But first, I'm going to ask everybody if you could please, I don't know what that was. If you could please smash the like button. It would help us out a lot. We are doing these ad-free, which is demonetizing ourselves. But as a result, YouTube really doesn't show the stream to anybody. So we need these likes to get this stream, get the word out that the stream is here. So please help, if you would. Anyway, I'm looking at this all day long. And it's bumping into this line. And this line was support for 2 months. And you can see it spent all day today. So it looked to me like this was going to maybe be a problem. And, I was hoping we could close the daily candle above this. Now, we still are not, we're hours away from the daily candle close. This could pull back and reverse. But it is encouraging to see if I switch over to the 1 day, you're going to see this is the line that held and held. And as soon as it broke, as soon as this broke, we went way down straight to what I think now is going to be the bottom. So let's see what our poll is saying so far. If you have not yet voted, Bitcoin movement, what's the next move? Stay around 62 to 63, 10%. 63 to 67, 39%. Back to 58, so back down 22%, back to 67 or higher. So really, 70% of you think we're headed up from here. 10% think we're going sideways. About 20% think we're going down. But recapturing this line of support, you can see, I mean, just these 2 days was from top to bottom. That was almost 12% in 2 days. But since then, you know, it looks like we bottomed out. We had Wednesday. So we had two things happen. Wednesday, the Fed did their thing. We'll talk about. I thought Jerome Powell said every single thing that the market could have possibly wanted to hear. So I'll go through some of the things he really pounded the table on. But to me, that was everything the market could ask for. And then today we got our jobs report. And, you know, right now, bad news is good news as it pertains to jobs. So the jobs report came in weak. And unemployment unexpectedly ticked up just a little bit. But that was all the market needed to feel better about things, and it tied right into what Jerome Powell, you know, was talking about. So, you know, rate cuts are back on the table all of a sudden. I mean, they had been written off, and you know, we were pricing 5 to 7 rate cuts in coming into the year. That got all the way down to about pricing in 1. And we still really haven't, you know, the futures haven't moved drastically, but I think sentiment has moved, and I think the futures will catch up to that. That people are going to, you know, there was article after article today, and I think I pulled up a few so we can look at them, that now all of a sudden the market feels like, hey, I think rate cuts are back.
That is kind of interesting, because if you remember our Tuesday members only, Tom?
Yes.
I mean, just for the members only stream that we did on Tuesday, you calmed me down. I mean, you know what I mean? I'm just, because I was like, this guy is falling, this guy is falling.
And I know, Tuesday was rough, right? And so it did feel like the sky was falling. Tuesday was brutal. That is the day we broke out of this range, and it looked like there was no end. And you know, Wednesday, by the end of Wednesday, we were rallying back. But yeah, that was a couple of rough days. The Bitcoin miners, Monday and Tuesday, the Bitcoin miners got wrecked.
But you actually said that, and I was just reading somebody's advice, Barry, that you thought that was the bottom.
I did say that in real time when it happened.
In real time, you were like, this is the bottom.
And I'm not right yet. You know what I mean? We'll see what happens. But so far,
a very fluid thing.
And that's right. It's, you never know. And I feel like the same thing. We'll take a look at some Bitcoin miner charts. I think the bottom was in. I think that April 16th was the bottom for the Bitcoin miners, and so I think those lows are going to hold, and now Bitcoin is rallying. If today's rally can hold, particularly if we can get back above this line of support, but even getting back above 60,000, that's an important line to recapture. And you know, if we can get back above 62,000, that would be a momentous day today. I don't think anybody at 8 o'clock this morning thought we were on our way to 62,000 today. And by the way, I mean, we're inching towards 63,000. So this is now from 8:30 this morning until now, we're now up over 6%. And just if I go a few hours before that, we kind of had a local bottom. You know, that's pushing 7% move to the upside here today since overnight last night. And from what is at the moment the bottom, right, we've now bounced. This is over $6,000 move to the upside since we bottomed out, really, in Wednesday's candle. So today is Friday. So 2 days later, we're up about 11%. We're up over $6,000. So I'm very encouraged.
What I find interesting is, as soon as Bitcoin, myself included, starts to fall, we all think it's going to the ground.
I watched. I'm not going to name names, although this is a rare
And
occasion.
places, Tom. Name and tell me
Times,
places.
dates, places,
Yes,
names, people. There's a YouTuber out there. I can't even. Sometimes I can't even believe. Like, I don't know. Maybe 4 days ago, he did a video, and it was kind of making fun of everybody. Like, oh, everyone's an idiot. Bitcoin's going to the moon. You know, everyone's gonna miss the boat. You're all missing it, and 2 days later, he does Doomsday. Bitcoin's going down, and then so I jumped in and watched, and I told you guys I've been trying to watch a lot of the larger YouTube channels that focus on Bitcoin itself, just to see what people are talking about. And so he went on and on. He literally said, "I don't think we're going to get to 10,000. So I don't think we're going to get down to 10,000, but you can expect." It's going a lot lower from here. That's 2 days after he talked about it going to the moon. So my point of all that is, this channel and all channels included, it's a lot of noise. The amount of noise out there, right? And I'm not trying to say we're noise, but we're a part of we do our best to do our research and, give our opinions and thoughts and share information. But, there's the amount of opinions out there and the knee-jerk, oh, we're going straight up. Oh, 2 bad days where it's the end of the world. So it's the same old thing. Zoom.
I don't know if I should share this with you, but I'm going to, and I'll probably, hopefully that person won't get mad.
Go ahead, George.
I've had, in the course of the last few months, and most people would lead with this stuff. We all talk on, Discord all the time. Those guys are more dedicated than I am even, and they're very smart people. It isn't us that are the smart people. It's the members that are the smart people. And from there, I've gotten more phone calls, Tom, and it's all Discord. I call them phone calls because I'm very close to being a boomer. I'm not one, but I'm very close. So I call it that old telephone thing that used to have the lines. Yeah, that used to be stuck to the walls. Yeah. And I tell you, I think we're very close. I'm not going to tell you the exact number, but I have had a lot of people call me and say, George, tell Tom thank you, and thank you to you too. I'm now a millionaire.
Nice.
And this has happened. Yeah, this has happened multiple times. Over 10 times. I don't know exactly how many, but over 10. And that's like, the things that people would normally lead with and talk about, and you know how stupid we are because we don't do any of that.
We're not the best self-promoters. That's a fact.
Yeah, let's go ahead and but that's actually factual. That's what people call and tell me. And I would like to say it's because of Tom and George, but it's not. It's because you guys made that decision and that conviction.
That's the bottom line, and that's what we talk about. Everybody's got to make, at the end of the day, it's your money, it's your calls. So, you can be, we all have people we watch and trust, but regardless, at the end of the day, it's your money and you make the call. So the people that stuck with it, I mean, even now we're at Bitcoin around 62 or 63,000, and even when it was down at 56 or 57, don't forget, 17 months ago we were at Bitcoin 15,000. So, that's we've already had a 4x on Bitcoin. I believe the best is yet to come. So I think there's a lot more room to the upside. And, we've already had big moves. Now, I know the Bitcoin miners have lagged. They did spend a couple of weeks way outpacing Bitcoin. So one of the things that's happening this week where they've underperformed, particularly versus today's performance, is they did, this ebb and flow thing. I feel like it's just scaring people. It's scaring people out of their Bitcoin mining positions. The Bitcoin miners, the day-to-day correlation just doesn't exist right now. It feels random. I don't think it's totally random. I think there's some other stuff going on. One of the things is, you know, the DXY kind of gained momentum all day today, which is the strength of the dollar. Now, it dropped significantly, but it fell. The floor fell out this morning, and that helps the Russell 2000 type stocks. That helps the Bitcoin mining type stocks. So they were off to the races. But as it gained a lot of that, as the DXY gained in strength all day long, we saw the Bitcoin miners pull back all day, but Bitcoin didn't. You know, Bitcoin held strong. And the markets had a good day. So let's just look at what the markets did. So the S&P was up 1.2, the Dow was up 1, and the Nasdaq was up 2, and the Russell was up just under 1%. So a good day across the board. Oil down 1%. Oil's now at $78. So that's helping, right? Gold actually did pop up to 0, but it was red most of the day. But seeing oil go down, seeing the dollar, you know, lose a little bit, I don't think I saved an article.
So,
go ahead, George.
It says George is happy today. Bitcoin is a mood changer. George, hi George. But I want to tell you something. I have an alert set on my phone that woke me up when all this hell happened, and like I unfortunately I watched it in real time. I was like, oh my goodness, and it just, how can you go back to bed? You know what I mean? It happened at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I forgot what day it was. And I sat there, and I didn't go to bed. I stayed, because I did buy more Bitcoin. And I kept going, you know, I told in the Discord, in the members chat, I told what I bought. And my theory was, you know what? Michael Saylor has a lot more money in this than I do. So if I'm going to lose all my money, he's going to lose all his money too. I'm serious. I was like, I still don't have like a ton of money into it. I mean, probably, you know, it's like I said, more than some, less than others, you know.
Yes, it's all relative. We're all different, you know, different points in our life and investment career and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, a lot to some is, you guys, here's what a lot is. When you're waking up in the middle of the night. So it's enough to care about, right? I mean, now,
that's so true.
And here's when it's too much, when you can't fall asleep in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's when you know you got too much.
Maybe I need to get out.
But it's interesting because if you go to, this is the 15-minute chart, you can see we just crossing over this dotted line. This dotted line at 62,959, I want to show you guys what this is, because with all of this madness, if you go to the one-day chart, this is where Bitcoin was on Monday when the U.S. equity markets closed. This is where Bitcoin was. So we are literally now on Friday at the exact same spot. Right, and if I zoom in again, I mean, we're within dollars of the exact same spot we were Monday when the market closed. So we just had, you know, monumental volatility to the downside. We broke out of our trading range. We broke into this area we've been talking about. One of the things we talked about on the Tuesday live stream was we finally did touch, and you can't hardly see it, but we got down to exactly a 20% pullback on Tuesday. And, you know, we rallied up a little off of that. And then Wednesday, things got worse before they got better. And now we've had a couple of day rally. And we're all the way back to where we started. So this was like pain and suffering. And the amount of people they got out in these couple of days, the amount of people they got out of Bitcoin, the amount of people they got out of the Bitcoin miners, we know that this happens. Now, if you got out of the Bitcoin miners, it's not like they, you know, ran so hard that you're going to feel FOMO or feel like you missed it. Scott Richardson, thank you for the super chat. Scott said, Cleanspark and Mara going to get biggest pop from earnings. And Riot, and I saw Kay earlier ask, let's talk about Bitfarms and Riot, and we're definitely going to do that, Kay. Especially Riot announced their earnings. Riot, I mean, their earnings was spectacular, and and it wasn't because of their operations, right? The companies that have a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, Bitcoin was at, $70,000 at the end of March. So, with the early adoption, all these companies now get to mark their stacks up. And, so CleanSpark has a nice stack. They had about 5,000 at the end of March. Marathon had, 16 or 17,000 at the end of March, Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So to put it in perspective, well, let me go to it exactly and find out so I don't guess at the number here. Okay. So this is Riot's quarterly. This was their statement they put out. Net income for the quarter was $211.8 million. This is their GAAP net income for the quarter. 82 cents per share compared to net income of $18 million or 11 cents per share for the same period last year. The net income for the quarter included a change in fair value of Bitcoin equal to $234 million. So that's why we talked about, there's going to be a one-time massive adjustment that these companies got when they switched accounting methods. But this is going to be the gift that keeps on giving as long as Bitcoin keeps going up. So, by June 30th, if Bitcoin is less than 71,000, they're going to have to take a little write down. But if it's back on the move and up, they're going to get to keep writing up. And my point of all this was Marathon's got twice the amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet that Riot does. So, if Riot got a $234 million pickup, I think you can expect, the better part of a $500 million pickup for Marathon. And so, that's going to result in massively good results.
Did Bitfarms report their earnings?
They have not reported earnings yet.
I'm going to put them as my fourth. I just did it, Scott. I did a new poll, everyone.
So let's go to Bitfarms. These guys, I mean, everybody's reporting soon. May 13th, right? So not next week, the week after. So by May 15th, a lot of these companies will have reported. Riot was out in front. So, we talked about this on the members only stream, and I think on last Friday's stream, that the fact that they scheduled so early and that they, scheduled a conference call, they being Riot, made me feel that, they had some good news to report, because that's not their typical thing surrounding earnings. Now that they've set the bar there for themselves, I suspect they're going to have to continue to do this, as they should, in my opinion, anyway, going forward. So, Bitfarms, May 13th. What do we got? A new poll? Which miner is going to get the biggest pop from earnings? CleanSpark, Marathon, Iron, or Bitfarms?
They all haven't reported, right?
They have not reported yet. And here's the deal with CleanSpark. They're going to get a double pop from earnings because, number one, they went from... Remember, for all the crypto winter, they were carrying around 500 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So they switched over. As of March 31st, they had 5,000 Bitcoin. Now, they put a bunch more on their balance sheet, another 700 in April. But, of course, they don't get to show that. That won't be a part of their first quarter earnings. But these 5,000 Bitcoin... They're going to get a big markup, right? They get to market, so they're going to get a big markup on that. Also, I mean, they are mining. They added 7 exahash in the first quarter. And, the amount of Bitcoin that they mined went up huge. So I think, with Bitcoin at the price it's at, I expect CleanSpark to have very, very good financial statements. So the stuff that we'll look at is... where are they at on their at-the-market offerings? We'll get that type of update. We want to see if they're managing their overhead, because they had talked about the fact that their overhead popped up 1 or 2 quarters ago, but they said this was all in anticipation of, getting to 20 exahash, and they didn't expect to see big increases in overhead, so I'll be looking for that. Also, how are they managing their overhead? And then there's going to be some... you know, stock options and that kind of stuff that people are going to not like. There's a large segment out there that just does not like that. And so, you know, that's going to be a piece of the puzzle. But I think you're going to see really good earnings, particularly from the companies. Marathon was 17,000 Bitcoin at March. They're going to get a giant pop. Hut is going to have, you know, fantastic, for gap purposes, they're going to have great earnings. Now, I think that's why it's important to look at the two pieces of the puzzle. How much of these gigantic earnings numbers are because they had great operations, and how much of it was just this adjustment to the market value because Bitcoin went up so much?
Don't they say sell it, go away in May or something like that?
Well, that's an old rule of thumb for the equity markets. You know, it's not the most accurate thing to begin with, and I don't think that's ever held up for Bitcoin. I also think these month to month, you know, there's this chart where, oh, you know, March is usually a great month for Bitcoin, and this is usually that. There's so many other variables going on. Number one, we just had the halving, so we got to take that into account. You know, number two, we're keeping a close eye. Once again, the Fed is in the driver's seat as far as what's going on with the market, and that includes Bitcoin. And, you know, and then all these data points now are under a microscope, right? If we look at, let me go find this. Give me 1 second. Okay. U.S. job market shows signs of cooling with just 175,000 jobs added in April. So the key is, what was the expectation? So here's where it came in. 175,000 jobs added in April and unemployment at 3.9%. So the key is, what were they expecting? Expectation was that the economy add 235,000 jobs and jobless rate at 3.8%. So 3.8 to 3.9, that little tick up was enough to give the market that in conjunction with the fact that, you know, we missed on the number of jobs added. Now, here's the biggest joke. These numbers get revised, you know, these get revised multiple times. So by the time this is 2 months from now, we might find out that we added jobs this month. But the market reacts in real time, and this is exactly coming off of what Jerome Powell, you know, pounded the table on in his talk at the FOMC meeting. This played right into that perfectly. So you saw, you know, this is where bad news is good news, because the Fed has that dual mandate. They have to. Inflation is the only thing they've been talking about for the last several years, because the job market's been very strong. So their dual mandate is to keep, you know, employment at, you know, as close to full healthy level, and to keep inflation down to what they consider 2% is their target rate. And they did reiterate several times. They're not changing that target rate. 3% is not going to become the new norm for them. They are still targeting 2%, but that does not mean that they're going to wait until we get to 2% to lower rates. They're going to wait for data to suggest that we're trending in the right direction in a strong enough way that will allow them to lower rates. So all of this played into the fact that the market now feels like, between what happened on Wednesday with Jerome Powell talking and this jobs numbers, that, hey, maybe things are not what we thought. Maybe it's a little better than we thought. And we saw that with a big pop in the market and a gigantic move up. Bitcoin continues to run up. I mean, this entire stream, it's been going straight up in a straight line, which, you know, we always like to say things don't go up in a straight line. But this morning we had a giant straight line up to this line of resistance. We struggled there for about 6 hours, and as soon as we broke out, now, boom, off to the races again. So that's where these lines come in. You know, this technical analysis, sometimes sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. We look at so many different things, and no one thing is ever right all the time. But these lines of resistance and support oftentimes are very meaningful. And, you know, one of the things that you know, George and I have talked about on stream and a lot of times off stream, we were really disappointed on these 2 days in the, you know, in the middle of April, when we got so close to this gold box or whatever we want to call it. The top of this box would have been a full exact 20% pullback from the recent highs. So over the last 18 months, every single pullback that we've had in Bitcoin has been between 20 and 23%. And we just never got into this. And, you know, we always say every time we just miss, you know, it's like gravity. It just gets drawn into this box. So finally we touched it exactly this day. If you look, got down to the low was $59,040. So if I click on this box,
and that's healthy, by the way.
That's these 20 to 25% pullbacks are a part of the process.
Yes.
So it got down. I don't know why this line moved a couple of dollars, but at the time, in real time, we were looking. This exactly hit this line. It was a 20% pullback. Now, we did go even further down the next day. So we got, if we measure from the top, which was March 13th, we got to 73,835. So, you know, roughly from there to the bottom, there's your 23.3% pullback. So this matches the last 4 in a row have been anywhere from 20 to 23%. So here we go again. This is the 5th pullback. It was 23%. And so now, right, we got to be careful. We're only 2 days into, you know, moving away from that, but we seem to be running away from it. So we'll see if this can hold. But again,
so you wouldn't be surprised if it got back down there?
Absolutely not. I don't think it's going to, but there's no way I can be surprised if we retest. You know, a retest tends to occur. What would really be nice is if we could get back above this line, which was support for almost 2 full months, which is at around 61,900. We're now almost $1,000 above that. If we could close above that and maybe retest this as support, we could retest 60,000 as support. So there's a lot of room to maybe pull back a little bit, because I'm guessing now a lot of the shorter time frame, the 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour RSIs are probably, you know, a little bit. Well, we'll take a look. We'll go all the way to the 4 hour and see. So this is still not even looking at the 4 hour RSI. We're at like 62. So there's still more room to the upside. It's not like we've run up even on the 4 hour. There's room to keep running. On the 1 day, you know, what we've been talking about, there's been this descending line of resistance. Now, I will tell you, we had a big, long talk. I don't know if I was on the members or on a Friday stream for everybody. In this area, somewhere around the 22nd, it looked like we had a nice breakout above this. We broke above 50, which is neutral. We broke out above this, you know, line of resistance. It seemed like we were going to get to the finish line, but this turned out to be another fake out. And now here we are again. I mean, this is way above this line at this point, but on the 1 day, you know, it's still just at around 46. So who knows? There could be room to the upside from here. And the more we run up, the better the chances that we get back into that old trading range, which, let me get, you know, this, you know, really more from this line right here. This was a solid range. We were between like 62 and 71 for a while. And you could see we were setting lower lows, but this all along, this was holding. We did close below it 1 day, but then ran right back above it. So if we could get back into this trading range, that's what I think is the most likely case scenario. But we certainly could, you know, it's possible we are now going to create a new trading range that's, you know, maybe some, you know, in this kind of range. So I'd rather get out and get back up. Obviously, we would all rather move to the upside, but we don't have enough information yet to see. But this price action is extremely encouraging today, but we never know. 1 day, you know, it's never enough, you know, to tell the story. the other thing I wanted to look at was, just give this a little room.
Oh, and I have a prediction. I have a prediction, guys. You're gonna laugh.
Prediction coming from George.
Prediction.
So you want me to do this, and then you can give your prediction?
Yeah.
If we look at the MACD, we were talking on that day where it looked like on the daily RSI we were going to have a breakout to the upside. This was the third time. You can see the histogram got all the way to almost even and almost back into the green. But we got rejected once on March 31st. We got rejected again on April 11th. We got rejected again on April 22nd. Now we're heading, it looks like we're heading back up. So the trend so far has been we keep hitting a brick wall and getting rejected. This is a really long time to stay red in the histogram and to have no bullish crossovers. So is the fourth time going to be the charm? And maybe we can have a little run to the upside. You know, these are, if history's any indication, you know, when we see this get very close, you know, that's going to be, I think, you know, and I did this last time. I think it's almost worth buying some, and not financial advice. For those of you who don't trade in options, please don't go jump into options and that kind of stuff. But twice now I've bought some put options just because, you know, we keep failing at these critical points. And, you know, by failing, I just mean, we did not have the bullish crossover, move in and take the next leg up. We had another pullback. So, you know, of course, as soon as I do that, we'll be off to the races, hopefully.
That's interesting.
George, you had something.
What is the longest that stayed negative like that?
I would have to look. I don't know. I mean, this is not like it's the all-time record, but that is a very long time. I mean, if we just scroll,
right. Probably back in 22?
Yeah, I mean, during the crypto winter, I'm sure we had these. But if you look, I mean, these are, it flips back and forth. This usually is continuously flipping back and forth and back and forth. This goes all the way back to July of 2022. So, you know, this is the longest one. I mean, here, this was pretty close. This is April of 2022. So this is pretty rare. At least, you know, sometimes there's some relief rallies in here, but, you know, there's been none. So we'll see. And once again, that's one indicator. There are thousands of indicators. There's thousands of lines of support. Well, there's not thousands, but, you know, there's a lot of different lines of support and resistance. And on top of that, there's external forces like the jobs report or the FOMC, the Fed meeting.
My prediction, and I don't know which one, but I'm going to tell you this, and Tom and I have been talking about this, and it's probably not going to be one of the big guys, but I believe we are going to have a short squeeze on one of the Bitcoin miners. I have an idea of about 3 or 4 of them, but I'm just going to tell you that there is, in this little space of ours, one of these is going to have a short squeeze.
And what kind of, not to hold you to an exact number, but ballpark, what kind of pump are we talking?
It's definitely going to be over 100%.
Oh, you think we're going to have, wow,
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, it's going to be over, yeah. It's coming, guys, I'm telling you. I can't tell you who it is. I'm just telling you, there's a pump coming. I feel it. I feel it. Not financial advice. This is more, what is it? It's not tax advice, is it, Tom?
It's neither of those things. I don't think it's any kind of advice. It's a prediction.
It's a prediction. No, if you start looking at some of these short reports, it's interesting to see them on some of these. And I think I know who it is, Tom. I think I know which one it's going to be. I have it down to 4, and I think I know which one. Here, that's a great poll, Tom. Actually, does anybody think there's going to be a short squeeze on any of these? Because a lot of people still hate miners, Bitcoin miners. They're still short in the...
They're certainly not back in favor yet. But I do feel like momentum is building. I'm going to go to a couple of charts. I feel very strongly The Bitcoin miners bottomed out on April 16th. You know, whether it was April 16th or April 17th, from miner to miner. But I'm going to look at some of those, and then I'm going to get to Duckman is here, and he said Stronghold digital mining. There's big news. You know what? I'll get to that first, and then
There is big news for them?
Well, I don't know if there's big news.
Did they get a lifeline?
Did
they call up and get a lifeline?
They phoned a friend.
They phoned a friend, guys.
Stronghold. So, Stronghold announces first quarter 2024 operating financial results. This is their press release. I'm going to take it right from the top. So this is the second sentence. The company is considering a wide range of alternatives to maximize shareholder value, including but not limited to the sale of all or part of the company.
Whoa.
I want to tell you, for the members, you guys will know, we've been calling this for 6 months.
I would say over a year.
It could be a year.
Yeah, it could be a year. Yeah.
Out of the 6 or 7 Bitcoin miners at the bottom that I'm most worried about, this is the one, in my opinion, that has a business model, assets, and a plan where this, I think, is a company worth buying. Now, I have one person who's obsessed with this channel that just says I've been pumping Stronghold. So for those of you paying attention, I have been saying it's one of the 6 that I'm most worried about. But I do think this is to, use your words, George, this is their lifeline. Now for them to come out and lead in their quarterly earnings that, this is more than a hint. They're going to sell themselves if they can get a reasonable offer. And so I feel like they will. I don't know that. We don't know. There's some new litigation. There's accusations. There's a lot of
lawsuits.
There's lawsuits. A lot of moving parts here. But this is, everybody's talked about the mergers and acquisitions season, and post halving we would start to see this stuff. And I've been talking about the fact I think the top 8 companies, the bigger companies that have plans to get to 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 exahash, I don't think any of those are we're not going to see any more mergers of equals or any of that kind of stuff, in my opinion. And they're too big to buy out. But there's a bunch underneath that have the potential. But there's other companies that have the infrastructure. And that's where I think the mergers and acquisitions are going to come from. And this company has that kind of infrastructure. So in other words, I don't think somebody's going to go buy one of these small companies because they have some Bitcoin mining machines. I think that's of little to no value. What these big companies need is infrastructure. They already have purchase orders to buy 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 or more Bitcoin mining machines. They need the infrastructure and a place to put them with, in a cost-effective way from an energy standpoint. So I think that's what Stronghold has to offer, potentially, in my opinion. So Duckman said Stronghold 100x. I feel like that might be optimistic, Duckman, but for your sake, I hope so. But, I do think this is a company that I don't think is going to sell themselves short here. So
Kevin K.
Oh, Kevin K said, sorry, I've been away. I was working with Bitcoin CEO Satoshi. He really enjoys the show. He told me, stay locked in. The new Bitcoin price coming soon. Thank you, Kevin K. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. And say hello to Satoshi for us.
And with this poll, I did these 4. I'm going to do another 4 because I'm going to do a total of 12. Just, and then we'll do a round robin at the end. We might have to do 2 round robins. You know that?
Yeah, in order to get there, I have a very hard time keeping up with the chat, but I've noticed a few things. Hello, Sebastian. I see Sebastian in the chat. So hello, welcome.
Hello. Are you going to do this thing Saturday, Tom?
I'm doing the thing tomorrow. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. So let's see. There was somebody else that said something, and I can't find it now. See, I have a really hard time keeping up
Good
with
reason
the
to become a
chat.
member right now, Tom. I have a good reason.
Fire
We
away,
are going
George.
to go on this next Tuesday. We are going to see what sets up a squeeze on a short and how that is set up.
Deeper dive into the short squeeze.
People made a ton of money on GameStop, and not as much, but on AMC too.
Wow.
And think about it, we haven't had any short squeezes lately. It's been very dry.
The meme short squeeze type Wall Street bet stuff has not, that kind of, I don't know if I'd be glad if it was gone forever. I don't know that any of that was ever good for the retail investor.
It was good for the company.
Well, there was one company in particular it was very good for. It saved AMC.
AMC, yeah, I know.
I mean, it absolutely saved them. They raised significant amounts of money they never would have been able to get their hands on. And they were, at that time, right before that happened, maybe 3, 4, 5 months before all that happened, I made a list of the 5 companies that I thought were most likely to go out of business. And AMC was on that list. And then all of a sudden, boom, the next thing I know, this bizarre. And that's one of the reasons for those of you who follow the channel, for the members know, I never short anything. I don't care what level of conviction I have that they're going out of business. I don't short anything. And there's a classic example. The market can be irrational. I mean, that was a hyper example of the market being irrational. The GameStop and AMC situation was bizarre. So that's why I don't short stocks. But
Did you see any today?
No.
I can't believe it, but it went back over $1.
Oh, there you go. It got back over $1. Should we pull up the any chart?
I mean, no one cares about any anymore.
But how much market cap does it have? That's the real question. So now it looks like we're finding a little bit of sideways action after another big pump up to, we got over 63,000. We got to 63,246.
Duckman. That's the best compliment ever, Duckman.
Oh, man.
Woo, woo, woo. What are you, a bunch of wise guys? Sorry.
Okay, we were going to take a look at a couple of these charts. So, the date jumps out at you. This is April 16th was kind of the day that I said, I believe these lows will hold for the Bitcoin miners. Now, there are 2 or 3 exceptions with the microcap / nano cap stocks that seem to be fading. And, I don't know if this is the beginning of the end or whatever the case may be, but, for the, top 10, I think they put their local bottom in here on April 16th. Some of them got a little bit lower, pennies lower on April 17th. But you're going to see, this happens to be Cypher. And Cypher is up almost 25% from there. So it feels like, nothing's happening, but that's a nice little move. Now, it was higher a week ago, right? We got wrecked on, this was Monday and Tuesday, all the Bitcoin miners got really, really beat up on these days. And Wednesday, it got worse before it got better. But if we look, so if I just grab a few of these, like, the big ones, if you go to Marathon, again, here on the 16th or 17th, from the bottom, we're up, 23%. Riot. I'm not going to do every single one of these, but just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Riot's up 34% from, I went from the 18th from this, it was a couple pennies higher on the 16th. So I just think Cleanspark, you can see we're still above that. Iris Energy did kind of double bottom, but you can see we're above that. And again, this is why this was the last thing I dollar cost average into. I suspect I've done all my buying of Bitcoin miners. I can't say that for sure because you never know, and if another opportunity presents itself, then so be it. But, you know, and again, I'm not telling you guys to stop buying these. Remember, for a lot of us, myself included, I've been dollar cost averaging in for years to several of these positions. So yes, now I think they're all full. Some of them are way bigger than I ever expected that they would be, but, you know, the opportunities presented itself. So the next step will be hopefully to, you know, enjoy crypto Bitcoin summer and get back to 74,000 and then, you know, see what our new all-time high is. Now that could take a while. So, you know, I would expect, you know, that could take anywhere from 9 to 18 months.
Yeah, privately, we've been talking about this quite a bit. You know, I didn't, you know, we expected to have some type of pullback, obviously. You know, you can't go up in a straight line, even though it should go up in a straight line.
Well, and we had, you know, the spot ETFs, and so I'm going to show, let's bring that, you know, the spot with we were way early in this cycle. So if we go back to the 1 day, right, we hit a new all-time high on March 13th. We broke beyond our previous all-time high from the previous cycle on March 11th. This is the first time ever that we did that before the halving. So that was, you know, over a month before the halving. We hit new all-time highs. And we had massive catalyst with the, you know, U.S. spot ETFs. So it is no wonder that things ran up. And it's no surprise that they had their 20 to 23% pullback. And I drew this box all the way down to a 25% pullback. And we've discussed on the channel, you know, in previous cycles, it's gotten a lot worse than that. There have been 30, 35% pullbacks. We had a 50+% pullback right in the middle of the last bull market, you know, in the last cycle. So I don't think anything like that will happen this time around, but, you know, I didn't think it would happen last time around. So, but this was certainly nothing short of business as usual. So if that was the bottom, and, you know, if we can steady the ship here a little bit, then this will have been a very, very typical. This is the fifth time in the middle of what's basically a, you know, 300 or 400% move to the upside in 17 months. This will be the fifth 20 to 23% pullback that we've had. So yes, I think we should expect more of these. You know, even if we get to, as we get to 100,000 ultimately, hopefully, and then maybe 125 or 150 in the middle, we're going to get, and the more vicious the runs up are, the more vicious the pullbacks are.
And guys, I'm going to try to get most of the miners up here, the Bitcoin miners, so I'll do another poll after this, and then I'll do a round robin at the end where we take the guys that are highest. And I don't think, just, you know, I'm kind of going to answer this question. I don't think Marathon could do a short squeeze. Tom, correct me if I'm wrong. It would have to be, I mean, there's just so much float out there on Marathon. I would think that's just way too many shares to squeeze. Tom, what do you think?
A lot of these companies have similar number of shares. They have a lot of shares, but they don't have the most shares. But I do think, you know, the larger the market cap, it's hard to get 100% move on, you know, the largest. Billion.
Yeah.
It's and if we go,
it'd be a 7. Yeah, there'd be a 7.
It's more than that. Marathon is.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Marathon.
5?
They're just under $5 billion. They were over $6 billion. Actually, they were significantly over this earlier. But they're still hanging around at around $5 billion. So, you know, to me, that makes it less likely that you're going to get. Now, I do expect much more than a double by the end of the bull market for Marathon. That's my personal opinion. So opinions vary, and it's funny because I have some people that think I'm so low on my price targets, yet I have so many people in the comments section that telling me I'm delusional and, you know, this is all dead money. So only time will tell which of those is right. Obviously, I don't think it's dead money, but that's my opinion.
But with short squeezes, how do you kind of look at them, Tom?
I will never. I have a stock I've been looking at that I think should have short squeezed 3 years ago, and I've been watching it every day since, and it still hasn't short squeezed. So, for especially the smaller the market cap, the more ability big money has to keep these companies down. Ultimately, my personal belief is eventually the vast majority of stocks in the stock market will cross paths with their fair value. But how long is it going to be irrational in between, right? And irrational goes both ways. You may wait years for, I'll just tell you, there's a company I've been holding, there's more than one, but the company in particular that I'm talking about is a company called Beam, stock ticker BEEM, not financial advice. I don't think they're going to short squeeze because I'm now 3 years into waiting, and I didn't buy them because I thought they were going to short squeeze. I bought them, and I still have conviction in that. No, if they squeeze, it's a great bonus, and that's wonderful. But and it's in the EV space and the solar space. You guys can look into it. Again, not financial advice. If you're waiting for a short squeeze on it, don't hold your breath. But I will continue to hold that. I think they're moving in the right direction. It's a very small company.
Like the company?
I like the company. I like what they're doing. They have a tiny float, and they at one point they were even a lot more shorted than they are today, and they haven't popped yet. And I'll wait for it. I think there's good news ahead. But they're in two different industries, which is the EV and solar. Those are two of the worst places to be in the stock market for the last 2 years. They're right there on par with Bitcoin miners, right? The market they have not been in favor for years now. This company is different. It does something that no other company on earth does. I think it's going to work out for them. But again, my point was I can't try to pick a short squeeze because, to me, that was the most likely stock in the entire market to squeeze, and it didn't. So you never know.
Was it just didn't have a big name, or?
Big money will do what big money does, and with companies that small, it didn't get. I'll tell you this, and this is one of the reasons I think Wall Street Bets, I'm just not sure what their motivation was, because I tried to mention that company on that website 3 different times, and they gave me 3 different reasons why they rejected my post and said they wouldn't even put the post up. And it wasn't a hype post. It was just, hey, take a look at the fundamentals on this company. I like it. And they were like, nope, we're not posting that. So take of that what you will. That's what happened.
Trying to find my next 4.
So, one of the members was talking about, let me see, I have a hard time following the chat.
Real quick, because I'm going to be ending this poll any minute.
All right, go ahead, end the poll. Somebody was saying that Bitfarms is going to be announcing, here we go, K. Yeah. Thank you. K is saying Bitfarms is going to announce 10 exahash upgrade in May. Boom. So they did say in their investor deck, they said they expect to get to 12 exahash by the end of the quarter. So that's June 30th. So I don't know, if K knows more than I do, that they're going to get announced 10 by the end of May. That would be spectacular. I mean, they were above 7. And then I think they may have announced something since then. So they're on their way to 10, and they're on their way to 12. It's one of the reasons that, that's one of the ones I have a very high level of conviction in. I think the 2 that are most undervalued are, right now, in my opinion, are Bitfarms and Iris Energy are the most undervalued, in my opinion. That doesn't mean I think they're the 2 best stocks. They're 2 of... one of those is one of my larger positions, which is Bitfarms, which I've been holding for years and years and years. But I will say this, with Bitfarms and with Riot and with a few other of these companies, I think the market is really going to make them prove themselves. And they're going to wait to see that they've done what they said they were going to do. And I don't blame the market for that. So
I do. I blame it.
Here's why I don't blame the market for that. I do believe that Bitfarms will get to 12 exahash sometime in the neighborhood of June 30th. There's some things that could get in the way of that. And as we've seen, most companies run a little bit behind what their expectations are. Beyond that, they expect to get to 21 exahash by December 31st. They've already purchased all these machines. So, and they know where they want to put them. So the plan is in place. They now need to execute. And I think the market is waiting, right? If you look at Bitfarms, they're trading at $1.82. So, you know, let's go to their chart.
Excuse me.
So from their peak on February 27th, and you know, a lot of these miners ran up. Bitfarms actually ran up past their December 27th peak. There was only a couple that did that, but from the end of February, you know, Bitfarms is down over 50%. This is down 53%. Now, most of the Bitcoin miners had a big pullback in that period of time. This is on the worse end of that spectrum, and I think the market's waiting to see. But if they get to 10 exahash in May, like Kay is talking about, if they get to 12 exahash, and in their monthly operational reports, we start to see that in the number of Bitcoin they mine. Remember, we've got to compare this versus their peers because we're now post-halving. You know, so the numbers are, it's not like they're going to go up potentially. Although by the end of the year, the companies that successfully execute their plans, even with the halving, should be mining more Bitcoin in the month of December than they did in the month of March, which was the last full month before the halving. So I think you're going to see several Bitcoin miners that achieve that objective. So if they can get to that point and Bitcoin's in the middle of its, you know, bull run, that is the bull case scenario for these Bitcoin miners. I think a bunch of them are going to get there. I think they will have big increases. And Bitfarms, to me, is one where the market is going to wait and see. They want to see this to believe it. And, you know, not to bring up very old salt in the wound, but, you know, Bitfarms was talking about getting to 8 exahash by the end of 2022. And, you know, their plans got derailed for several reasons. One was solely on them. The other one was solely outside of their control, which was the crypto winter occurred in the middle. So, you know, everybody's plans changed for that reason. So, you know, they were going to be there in 2022. It's now, you know, the middle of 2024, and they're still not at 8 exahash. So I understand the market's hesitancy to say, I will wait and see it when I believe it. I happen to believe it. I think they will get there, but only time will tell. And I think Riot is the exact same thing. Riot has raised an enormous amount of capital. They've built out an enormous amount of infrastructure, but we really haven't seen that equate yet to an increase in exahash and an increase in the number of Bitcoin mined. So I think the market is going to wait on Riot as well, even more so than Bitfarms, because the other difference between those two companies is Bitfarms, from an operational standpoint, has, you know, they've had a very high level of performance, operationally speaking. In other words, the amount of Bitcoin they mine per exahash has always been among the leaders, if not the leader, on a monthly basis. Riot's been at the other end of the spectrum. So Riot has even more to prove than Bitfarms. On the flip side, Riot has over $1 billion in liquidity and a very, very strong balance sheet. They have a gigantic hodl position in Bitcoin. So, you know, they're different companies. But I think for both of them, for different reasons, the market is waiting for these, you know, plans that are on paper right now to become a reality. It's the reason why, if we take a look at Cleanspark, and I'm going to go just pull up a chart here real quickly. That is not where I wanted to go. Here we go. So, okay, 2024 year to date. there's only 3 Bitcoin miners that are up. And this was as of last Friday, 1 week ago. So as of at the end of last week, only TeraWulf, Cypher up 3% year to date, Cypher up 9% year to date. At that point, Bitcoin was up 52% year to date. Look at CleanSpark, up 74% year to date. All the other Bitcoin miners were down. Several of them were down between 50 and 67%. So it has been a rough year for the Bitcoin miners' stocks. The reason CleanSpark has run so far out ahead, they came into this year at 10 exahash, and now they're at 17 plus exahash. So, and they did all of that before the halving, and so they dramatically increased their exahash. They dramatically increased the number of Bitcoin they mine per month, and over a 6-month period, they went from 500 Bitcoin on their balance sheet to 5,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So the market is not in a wait and see, show me situation with CleanSpark. They've already rewarded CleanSpark and their shareholders. Now, they're going to wait and see the next leg, because CleanSpark has big plans from here to get to, much bigger numbers. But you'll see Bitfarms in the same period that CleanSpark's up 74%, Bitfarms is down 33%. By the way, Riot down 23%, Mara 17%. Those are the other large market cap, Marathon and Riot. Bitfarms is in the middle with some of these other companies from a market cap standpoint, much smaller than the big three, which is Marathon first, CleanSpark now second, Riot now third. And it's worth noting, for the first 9 months of 2023, Riot was the largest by market cap. They're now third and, becoming a distant third. So this, to George's statement that he likes to say, it's a fluid situation. I think you're going to see a lot of things, a lot of these lists shake up, things moving up the list and down the list as the year goes on, based on execution on these growth plans. And there are a lot of companies that have massive growth plans. There's a lot of companies that plan to double, triple, or quadruple their exahash in the next 12 months. And, some of them already, have made big strides in. And the two that jump off the page at me are, number one, we talked about CleanSpark. Iris Energy has significantly increased their exahash, and there are others that have been adding to their exahash already this year. So I think that's the single biggest thing we need to look at is, how do these companies, do they execute their plans? And then, that's step one. Once they do that, then we got to see, are they efficient? Are they getting, all the Bitcoin mined per exahash that they can? Are they keeping their cost per coin at a reasonable level? A lot of these companies have much lower cost per coin than, the word on the street, if you will. So I think you're going to see that. And as we get the financial statements for all these companies over the coming weeks, essentially, if you take the cost per coin in the first quarter, even if you double it because the reward's been cut in half, I think you're going to see these companies are a lot of them will be wildly profitable. And for some of them, it's not nearly going to double because their fleet is getting significantly more efficient, a lot of these Bitcoin miners. And CleanSpark will be a Bitcoin miner that, their fleet's going to get maybe 40+% more efficient in a short window of time. So that makes up for a lot of the increase, the decrease in the reward. So that's a lot of moving parts, and there's more. So there's an awful lot to look at. So that's why we say, try to look at everything, every which way we can. We're seeing a little bit of a pullback, but still at Bitcoin 62,500 as we speak right now. So super strong price action today. How's the poll going, George?
Oh, I just ended it and went to another one. I'm trying to get all of them.
Oh, you're still doing groups.
Yet. I'm still doing groups. But out in the lead, it was Bitfarm. I think, what was the other one? The first one was Mara. And then the third one was woof.
Aha. So you've done a bunch of these. I'm sleeping at the wheel.
Sleep, sleep, sleep.
Barry must be saying something to try to get me going. I'm reading something that he said that... Trying to go back.
Ooh, supposedly Marathon is being added to the S&P Small Cap Index. That could be why they're pumping right now.
This is who? Marathon?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, so what else did we have? There was more than that. Oh. Okay, so another reason we had a massive move to the downside this week. And this may be the biggest reason. This is the Bitcoin ETF flow by day. If you look at this, this goes from April 15th to April 30th. There's only 3 days that are not red on here, but you know, at the beginning of this, there were some smaller days. If you look at May 1st, so, and then if we go back to the chart just to look, May 1st is the day we bottomed out here. So this was the day we got down to, just for the record, we got down to, according to this chart, which is the Bitcoin Coinbase chart, we got down to exactly $56,500.00. So on May 1st, we had net outflows from the ETFs of $526 million. That's over $500 million on that day. And that is the day that Bitcoin tanked and hit its low. If you take this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day period, that's over $1 billion of outflow. So, you know, while we got a giant run up with the historic number of days of inflow from these ETFs, you know, now we've seen some profit taking. I don't know what happened on May 1st because every single one of these had an outflow. Nothing like that has ever happened before. And some of these were large, right? Fidelity had $191 million of outflow. I guess actually, according to this, IBIT was 0, which is BlackRock. Grayscale continued $167 million. I don't know if I said that's $191 million out of Fidelity, $167 million out of Grayscale, but almost $100 million out of the ARK fund. These are gigantic numbers. So this was a big part of the crash. It seems bizarre to me that, you know, all of these ETFs behaved in a similar way on the same day. I don't know what other technical thing happened or whatever the case may be. It is what it is. But this is what happened. So then if we go to the next day, so this doesn't have yesterday on it. So this was yesterday. So you can see $34 million, still red, but only $34 million. So, you know, 526 million, 161 million. Those were the 2 days in a row before that. And that was that 2 day. If you look at that's these 2 red days. So there's a really strong correlation here between the behavior of the ETFs and the behavior of Bitcoin, you know, in these short windows of time. Certainly these 2 days was a direct correlation. And this whole run up is when, you know, these ETFs net inflow was somewhere in the neighborhood of $12 billion in this period of time. So, you know, that had a massive effect to the upside. I do think we're still super early on these ETFs. This may not be the last time we have a little run on them where there's profit taking or whatever else the case may be. You know, people got very bearish and you could see it. And that's why I watch a lot of these other YouTube channels. Even if you're reading the articles and out there, all of a sudden everybody was like, the sky was falling. And now here we are just a few days later, and it seems like we're getting healthy again. So, you know, I don't, again, too soon to call, but it does, this is really strong price action. What I would really like to see is if I go to the 15-minute, you know, if we could close a daily candle above this red line at 61,900, I think that would be very, very strong move. But even if we go below that, we've still had a massive move to the upside. So if we hold, you know, if I go to yesterday, we closed at around 59. So if we were to hold 60 or 61 or 62, we actually did get above 63 at one point within the last hour. So there's a lot of good spots, but best case scenario in my mind is if we could close the daily candle above this, and then over the weekend, if we could confirm some daily candles that stay above this, that would be a really bullish case scenario. And then I think at a bare minimum, we could get back into this trading range, you know, in this type of area here. Pardon my scribbly lines, but, you know, you see a green line at the top of this, 71,000. And I do think there's a few reasons, one of which is the shorts will get absolutely destroyed at somewhere around $71,000. There will be massive, massive liquidations. And Bitcoin tends to gravitate to those gigantic liquidation points, whether they be to the upside or the downside. Obviously, if it's a run up, that means the shorts are getting liquidated. If it's a move to the downside, that means the longs are getting liquidated. We've seen a massive amount of longs get liquidated over the last couple of weeks. So that part of the move feels like it's over. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we run up to 71,000, even if it's only briefly, just to liquidate everybody. And that would be the very top of this range we've been in. This goes all the way back to March 25th, so over a month. But we'll see. We're a long way from there right now, and you know, we're only 2 days away from, you know, the sky is falling talk. So we'll have to wait for it.
Tom, there's some questions in here, and I want to know the answer to. So Darren asked a question.
I'll do my best.
It was about the mining at HUT and the question about hosting. And here we go. Did you have an issue with Riot trying to snake the question on hosting?
Here's what
We've already had this conversation, guys.
I'm regrouping. Riot they are getting out of the hosting business. They're not even showing it as a line item. They used to have 3 business segments, one of which was hosting. This is a conversation that we had on the channel when we interviewed Jason. And, you know, that was a long time ago now. But at that point, we specifically, one of my questions was, do you see this turning around? Do you see hosting turning into a profit center? And at that time, that was what Riot was talking about. Yes, this is, you know, we have some legacy contracts. Hosting's a problem. The end is in sight. And ultimately, this will be a profit center. Well, I will tell you, they did a 180-degree turnaround on that. And I don't think they left any room for doubt. I may have written the words down. Give me a second and see if I can find them.
No doubt, but they still had a few machines out there.
So ultimately, somebody literally asked them. It might have been the last question. Somebody said, listen, if I go walk through your facilities right now, am I going to see any hosted machines, or are they all gone? And at that point, they said, yes, we still have one customer left. So we still do have some machines that are being hosted on the premises. Now, the revenue and expense was down to minuscule versus what's gone on in the past. So what it seems to me they're down to is they've got one customer left that's very small, and they've got some lawsuits that are not yet resolved. So that's the last piece of this puzzle. You know, how much more is that going to cost them? So I was encouraged. I will tell you, however they wind this down, I don't care how they wind it down. It's been my opinion for the last year plus. The hosting business for them made no sense to me. It never made any sense to me. I know they had some legacy contracts that they had to run through, but it was always my opinion, once those are gone, they should fill their facilities up with their own machines and mine Bitcoin. So that's what they talked about doing. They specifically said that was their intent now, is to move towards self-mining. So, that was, as they look back on this, there's just no way to say that that went well for them. So the one thing that I would say is, I've been waiting to see an end in sight and then eventually the end. And I think we're made big progress towards, seeing the end of that situation. It's now a tiny fraction of what it was. And they were losing a lot of money in their financial statements on a quarterly basis. They were breaking out that segment and losing significant money, tens of millions of dollars. So it looks like the end is in sight. I don't know how those, lawsuits will work themselves out. And, every company has lawsuits that go on. And, that is not going to dictate the success or failure of Riot going forward, in my opinion. It may cost them some money, but I like however this came about. And maybe it took longer than it should have from my perspective, but I like the fact that they are at or near the end of this and they're going to focus on self-mining. The question I would have asked, and if you look at their investor package, they have like a chart that's kind of in color. I think blue was their Rockdale facility and like orange or whatever was Corsicana. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not sure why they can't get more self-mining exahash out of the facility they're in right now. So I don't know what the answer to that is. I think they're saying between the two facilities, which is 1.75 gigawatts, they have a 750 megawatt facility and they're building a 1 gigawatt facility. According to their investor presentation, they will be able to host just under 60 exahash of self-mining between those two facilities. They don't even plan to get to that point by the end of 2025. But it is in their plans to get to that and beyond. They plan to get to 100 exahash. If you look at their investor presentation and what they talked about on the conference call and in management's discussion. So that's their long-term intention. But they will have to get facilities even beyond the two gigantic facilities they have in order to get there. But that's out in the distance.
And they got a ton of cash.
They have a ton of cash. They have a ton of Bitcoin. But I did write a couple of numbers down. Let's see if I can find them. They, in the quarter, 345 million. So they drew down $345 million of their at-the-market shelf offering in the quarter ended March 31st. And then subsequent to that, in the month of April, they drew down another $154 million. I think it was 345.7, 154.1, so just under $500 million they drew down on their new $750 million at-the-market offering so far from January 1st to April 30th. So they have drawn down a lot of money, but they do have, like, I think they said somewhere like $1.3 billion of liquidity, and it may be more than that. So, and got to go to my other page, but they said they are fully, I believe they said they are fully funded. There was a lot going on this week, so I got a lot of different pages and notes. But yes, their 2024 and 2025 CapEx, this was a direct quote, was they are fully funded. And that is to get themselves to 40 exahash. So, yes, they drew down a lot of money, but according to them, that's going to get them from here to 40 exahash. They're at 12 exahash right now. They did put, as we've been famously talking about on the channel, they installed a batch of Bitcoin miners at their facility. They did not clarify that. So that was surprising to me. They said a batch again. So, I don't know what a batch, how many Bitcoin miners are in a batch. Somebody's going to have to do that math for me. So I would have hoped they would have given a little more clarity. I think they will in their monthly operational update, which should be out imminently. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and next week, I would think, but we'll see. I would think they're going to have to report to us how much exahash they had online as of April 30th. But again, they have plans for significant growth in the short term. So that's another company where that's going to be, and they've talked about this. Listen, they had to draw down a lot of money. They got 400 megawatts online at Corsicana. So that's room for a lot of growth on their Bitcoin mining operations. Now, they got to show us that they can do it. They've ordered the machines. They've built the facilities. They just got to pull it all together, get it up and running, and start mining Bitcoin. So, and I have my Riot position. It's one of my biggest positions, not financial advice. I just, I think it's another one, despite whatever, frustrations I may have with them. I do think they're going to get where they're going. That's my opinion.
So, Tom, with Marathon getting listed to that cap, small cap, will that help the price, you think?
I don't know. They have a lot of institutional adoption already, more so than anybody else, but it can't hurt. I don't think you're going to see a gigantic pop, but I don't think it can hurt.
It can't hurt. There are rumors that Marathon is going to buy Riot. I don't know about that one.
I mean, unless somebody can explain the logistics of that, I don't see how Marathon can buy Riot. And the reason that I say that is, if I go to Riot, and this number probably is not up to date. I should do this and look at that. This is a $3 billion market cap, and I don't know that they've adjusted that for all the shares that they just announced that they've issued. So this is probably even, maybe they have, I don't know. I'll double check, but you're just not acquiring a $3 billion. They have two direct competitors. I don't think you're going to see any acquisitions among these companies that are, anywhere from $700 million to, 1 or 2 or $3 billion. Because remember, Riot's not going to sell themselves for $3 billion. Riot was at $18 a share a few months ago. So, the shareholders are not going to vote yes on a bid, even at $18 a share, is my guess, right? So, in order to buy a company out, you got to go through a shareholder vote and approve that. And, I don't know what. So, it may, if this is a $3 billion market cap now, they may have to buy them for 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or $10 billion. And that just doesn't seem feasible. That's why I don't think there's going to be any mergers among these big companies. Now, if there's a stock trade, stock for stock, and some of these big companies merge, I suppose that's not impossible. I don't think it makes sense to me. I don't know why any of them would do that. I don't think it's going to happen. But I've been surprised before, and I almost certainly will be again.
I'm always surprised, Tom.
That's what the market does to us. Right? If it was as simple as just charting things out and seeing where we go next, then everybody would do it and we'd all be multimillionaires. So, there's and the biggest factor, and I hate to even quote Warren Buffett, but he talks about time. The ultimate buy and hold investor is Warren Buffett, and he remains one of the richest men in the world. For years, he was the richest person in the world. He's still very near the top of that list. And that's how he got there. Find good companies, invest in them, and hold. Now, that doesn't mean you hold everything forever, and, you got to update your due diligence. And there are certain companies, if I do have an exit strategy. Somebody earlier was saying something to the effect of, I can start calling Tom a trader if he starts selling some of these. But I have always said I have an exit strategy. I will reduce these positions if all goes as planned, and it never does. I will reduce these positions as we get at or near closer to the peak of this cycle. And for the Bitcoin miners, they tend to run later than Bitcoin. So I think there's a big run ahead for a lot of these. So that's That's why I'm holding the stocks, obviously. So we'll see what happens. But my point of that is I will not hold every single one of these shares from now until the end of time. I will take profits if we get to, if and when we get to certain thresholds. And everybody should have a plan. So hopefully if you bought these, you know what your plan is, which means you know when you're going to hold them, you know if or when you're going to sell some of them, take profits, sell them all, whatever the case may be.
Tom, I think there's a song about this.
Is it?
You got to know when to hold them.
That's...
Know when to fold them. Know when to walk away. Know when to run. Sorry.
They can't demonetize us. We already did that, so you can feel free. CleanSpark 100 said Mr. 100 has bought 4,405 Bitcoin in 24 hours. Wow, and for the first time, I think a couple of days ago, and it may have been on that same day everybody sold, I think he sold he or she or what, that may be an institution, I don't know, but that they sold 1,000 on one day, but now looks like massive buy here in the last 24 hours.
Who's this Mr. 100? Or is it just somebody following the wallet?
There's been a wallet, and there's very famous now because they've bought tens of thousands of Bitcoin. They just 100 at a time, 100, 100, 100,
yeah,
100.
every day.
It's real. Sometimes it's 7 times a day, 10 times a day. It's been relentless.
You're welcome, guys.
Keep it up, George.
Matt, what's that? I won't tell you my nickname.
George does have a self-made nickname. So we're holding nicely up
Just
around.
call me Mr. 100.
Yeah, that's your new nickname.
You know what's funny? Wouldn't that be funny if somebody just goes around and says that, but because nobody really knows anything about Bitcoin, they would never even know? Just call me Mr. 100.
Yeah, well, that'd be a way to find out who's a diehard Bitcoiner if they know what you're talking about. Kevin K, thanks for the super chat. Kevin K said, "Keep singing, George. Will you see Madonna? Material Girl."
Man, I'll tell you what, she's done some work. I can't imagine the pain you have to go through to look like that.
She's done some work. That was a very nice way to say that.
Sing.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to hear George sing Madonna. Although I've heard, I won't say.
I don't. I'm big on karaoke. I love karaoke. We should do that on the stream sometime.
Oh,
do
man.
like a Sunday night karaoke and get everybody go to a bar. See.
I don't think
I actually see people walk out the door when I sing.
Yeah, we'll see.
Stand up.
They
stand up for me, Tom.
A standing ovation.
Walking out the door.
They love it so much they got to run away. You made me see. I lost my train of thought.
I think we pretty much. Oh, Coinbase.
Coinbase, yes.
We have not talked about Coinbase. I've been waiting for this conversation.
So Coinbase reported earnings. They crushed it on earnings, but that's not the part that George wants to get to. So they beat expectations. The stock did not perform that well, particularly well today, if we look. But they did. I mean, they crushed market's expectations. And they minted money. Now, maybe it was built in because they were down 2.5%. But the thing that jumped off the page at me was, and one of the reasons I looked for this is George is always talking about, I won't say complaining, pointing out the fact that he
complaining.
Okay, you said it. He pays a lot of fees on Coinbase. And, even as a percentage of what you do over there, I know you feel like it's a lot of fees. Well, so just to show a couple of numbers that I find staggering. So this is I don't think this is their footnote. Yeah, this is okay. So this is their one of these I found in their footnotes. One of them I had to go to management's discussion to find. So if you break out revenue, transaction fees, just over $1 billion. So the first thing is the same quarter last year, 374 million. This quarter over $1 billion. So you can see, I mean, they blew these numbers out of the water. But what I wanted to look at was consumer transaction fees, $935 million. Institutional transaction fees, $85 million. So, right, much more, 11 and a half times the revenue from consumers than from institutions. But if you go into the breakdown of this in management's discussion, you'll see under trading volume, if you look at their trading volume, this is in billions. The consumer had $56 billion of trading volume. So the first thing is their trading volume was up 115%, but that's not what I'm looking at. The consumer had $56 billion in trading volume. Institutions had $256 billion in trading volume. So the institutions traded 5 times more than the consumers, right? This is a much bigger number that the institutions traded in volume than the consumers, but yet the consumers paid 90% of the fees. 11 times the fees that the institutions paid. So I will tell you, I didn't dig any deeper than that. I don't really, drop in the comments if you know anything about this. I just don't understand how they can charge. I mean, that's 11 times the fees for 1/5 the transaction. I mean, that seems to me like if you do the simple math, they're charging the consumer 50 times what they're charging the institutional money to make a transaction. So let me know if there's a piece of this puzzle that I'm missing. But this goes to your point, George. I mean, thoughts on those numbers?
They're taking advantage of retail. That's what they do, Tom.
I mean, they're minting money on retail investors.
And I don't know if anybody pays attention to their fees and how they trade on these coins and crypto, or if I'm only talking to myself. But I'm even in what they call a customer one client, where they're supposed to pay reduced fees, and I get a lot of my fees are waived, by the way. And I still pay, every single month since I've been in, I've paid over $10,000 a month in fees. How about that one?
That's staggering.
Yeah, and so let's say, for an example, just round numbers, Bitcoins, you can sell your Bitcoin at 50,000. Well, when you go to hit sell, they change it, and they have a percentage already built in, so that you will sell your Bitcoin at 49,000, let's say 450. So they just drop it that $650 like that, and then you pay a fee on top of that.
That's the mystery.
The mystery, yes.
It's one of the great mysteries. I just, you've been talking about this for so long that I just had to take a closer look.
I'm going to tell you at some point in time, hear me now, remember me later, there will be a class action lawsuit against Coinbase.
Uh-oh. This is a prediction. This is not financial advice.
Another prediction, not financial advice, legal advice, or anything. But some attorney's going to get a hold of this, or they're going to do it, and they're going to
allegedly.
See this, and they're going to be, and they'll be like, wait a second, I can make how much money doing this? That's how come these guys do these class action lawsuits. Oh, it's not to help the consumer. It's to help
each individual consumer gets a tiny fraction of what the attorneys get. I know somebody that was on the right side of that equation. Let's just leave it at that. And it was a life changer. Anyway, Barry, who is a member, said, Tom, serious question. If rates looked like continuing to be cut, would that make you hold your miner stock longer? So I'm hesitating because I want to think that through, because I do think that, rate cuts are, I still think Bitcoin, and certainly the Bitcoin miners, which are, small cap, micro cap, for the most part, stocks, that is part of the risk on trade. And, with each rate cut, more and more money is going to shift. We've been 3 years now into the Magnificent Seven, right? And you still got $6 trillion plus in the sideline on money markets. So you're going to have a lot of money shift into these smaller cap things, right? We had that bubble 3.5 years ago, and it's been, off a cliff ever since. So I do think that, the rate hikes are going to help this run, but I also think, I'm going to try to stick to taking profits. And you know what? If I miss, I am hopeful that I get the profits that I'm expecting. I will be happy if I get them. If I miss more of the run, and again, I'm not going to sell every last share of all of these Bitcoin miners. I will hold them through what I think will be maybe a bear market into the next market. But I do intend to take a lot of profits, near the peak. So I don't think that will change. I think it'll mean I make more money. But,
how do you know where the peak's going to be, Tom?
Well, none of us know where the peak is going to be, but I'm going to be looking at, fractals versus the previous 3 halvings have acted in a similar fashion, not identical. And, I'll be looking at a lot of the, I'm blocking the word out. A lot of the, not statistics. I'm drawing a blank. I will be looking at a lot of the data. I'm going to be looking
Matrix.
I'm going to be looking at the technicals. Sorry,
Right.
I don't know why I blanked that word out. I'll be looking at the daily RSI, the weekly RSI. I'll be looking at, there's a slew of things past that. That as those things start to say we're at a peak, the last time I wish I had paid more attention to the technicals in the last market. But the hardest part of this is, at the peak, when Bitcoin peaks, enthusiasm is peaking and FOMO is happening as well. And I'm
Fear and greed.
Fear and greed, so the fear and greed index, right, it was in the 90s. I mean, everything was screaming that this was the top. I will tell you, and a shame on me, plan B. I said it. I fell, and it's my fault, but I didn't do nearly as much. I did do a bunch of profit taking, but not nearly as much as I had planned to do, because we had plan B. Right, everybody said, "Oh, he's from the future. He knows. He got. What was it? He got August right. He got September right. In October we're going to go to 80,000. In December we're going to go to $146,000." So I was like, okay, looks like that's what Plan B said, and it looks like every single person everywhere agrees with them. That should have been my first screaming signal that it's not going to happen, which we talk about. And some of these lessons you learn the hard way, and unfortunately some of them you learn more than once. And to me, that is a lesson I had already learned not specific to plan B, but not paying attention, not sticking to my plan, not paying attention.
What do you anticipate Bitcoin making in this bull run when it happens? Where do you see it going over 100,000?
Yeah, I do. I see it going over 150,000. But it'll be a combination of things. It'll be how much time has passed. Where are the technicals? Where are we, like you said, in the fear and greed index? Where are we in the process of rate cuts? Where is the market? The overall, where's the economy? So, if all things go as planned, did we get the rate cuts I'm expecting to get? Did we start to get some quantitative easing that I'm expecting to get? And so, if all that happens exactly as planned, I'll know exactly how to exit. Otherwise, when things look overheated, even if everybody's screaming that Bitcoin's going higher, I'm going to take the the profits that I intend to take. And I'm not saying I didn't get any. There are some, I'll tell you, you know what, and there's a lot of them. I got out of my marathon position. I got out of my digital position at a 400 or 500% return. There's other things I didn't get out of. I didn't sell any of my Riot. So, you know, it was all, I didn't, and those were the ones, you know, I had more conviction in at the time, and I held them. And so, you know, I'm going to try to stick to the plan. And it's not a precise, right? These aren't a exact, you know, on, you know, December 24th, I'm going to sell, you know, this percent. I'm going to look for those types of bigger pictures.
My whole problem is I can't sell Bitcoin. All the thing I've done so far with my Bitcoin is added. And I'm not getting rid of Bitcoin to way over 6 figures.
And Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners are two totally different animals, because even look at the crypto winter. The Bitcoin miners did much worse than Bitcoin in the crypto winter. So, you know, and, you know, if you dollar cost average, now I dollar cost averaged into some of my Bitcoin miners as well. So for that reason, even some things that I held, I'm massively in the green on right now, even though they're nowhere near back to where they were. So, you know, it all depends. But with Bitcoin, yes, I understand. And I think there's an awful lot of people that, you know.
Well, if you have them on Coinbase, you can't afford to sell them.
That's the other thing. When you hold that's true. You got to consider fees. So, you know, if you're trading in and out of these things, you're paying fees on the current cryptocurrencies. So we'll talk more as time goes by. I will tell you this. We're not close to, you know, we're not close to any of my personal targets to sell out of these Bitcoin miners. Now, if something happens that's clearly outside of my plan, that, you know, these plans need to be flexible as well. So
there's only one time that I would think about selling my Bitcoin. I actually thought about this. After the God candle.
And how big would that have to be?
And how big is the God candle going to be?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking me?
That's yes. So what ballpark?
At some point in time, because of the way this is traded, there will be a God candle, and the God candle is going to start just like it just started just here, but it isn't going to end until it goes up between 25 and 35%. That will be the God candle.
That would be a monster. That would be the biggest candle ever.
And I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it happens at $1 million. I don't know if it happens at, because remember, as it gets bigger, the percentage that moves, right? It changes. So we're at $1 million. That's $1,250,000, and I see that happening. I see it going from $1 million to $1,250,000, like that, and that will be your God candle. I can see it going from 100,000. With 25% on top of that, boom. That will be
125. I mean, hey, listen.
I mean, think about it. It sounds ridiculous, but it will happen.
Nobody would be happier, although a lot of people would be just as happy as I would be if that happened. Darren S., who is a member, is saying, average Bitcoin price peaks around 518 days post-halving. Just sell September 1st, 2025, and don't try putting a square peg into a round hole. So, Darren, that is definitely one of the things I'm looking at, just like you're talking about, what resembles the previous cycles, and that's going to be a big part of the puzzle for me. So,
what are you doing, Kevin? You're gonna I need to sell my business in 2 to 4 years. Crazy 74-page application. Oh, you're trying to get your DOD number, or is that Department of Defense? I have a DOD number.
Well, there's government. That's the speed of government.
Kevin, I have a pack-out company, not a moving company, which is kind of the same thing. And did you know there's a hurricane? There's a tornado in Georgia. just in the southern spot of Atlanta about, I don't know, 4 weeks ago. And we've gotten 6 houses to pack out there. I mean, full house,
because of
full
a
pack
tornado.
out. Oh my, yeah, it's been insane.
Wow.
No, not a DOT number, a DOD, Department of Defense number. Selling my business was the best thing I ever did. Done.
CleanSpark to 100. I want to read this. He just said GBTC inflow, $63 million.
Wow.
That would be mark the calendar. GBTC has had an outflow every single day since the spot ETF came into existence. So that would be big news. And listen, with this giant pump today, I'm guessing we're going to see a lot of really nice action from the spot ETFs. But wow, that one would be a stunner. So thanks, CleanSpark to 100. That's if that's, I don't know where you got that info, but if that's true, that would be incredible, because I kind of really at this point expect GBTC to just over some period of time, 3, 4, 5 months, just dwindle down to zero. That's been my expectation. So, you know, if they're having inflow, that's a really good day. We're still up about 6% since the jobs number came out this morning at 8:30 Eastern time. So a big move to the upside today. George, any other thoughts?
No
It's getting
thoughts.
to be that time, so parting thoughts for the day, the weekend.
Just when you think you're right, you're wrong.
Well, that's a good point, George, because, you know, 2 days ago, everybody thought the sky was falling and look out below and, you know, how low are we going to go? And now here we are 2 days later. And if we go to the 1 day, you know, a nice green candle yesterday to get back up to the top of this box. And then today, a giant green candle. And it's looking more and more like we stand a really, really good chance of closing above this line at 61,900. So my parting thoughts, as always, are going to be, can we close the daily candle back above this line, a line of support we held for a couple of months, we lost for only a couple of days. So if we could close above this, hold above it over the weekend, get back into this trading range, I would be a happy camper. Even if we did some more consolidation between 62 and 71,000, if that's the next move, I would be very happy with that. So that's what I would be looking for. Congratulations to everybody. Hopefully you guys had a good week. Hopefully your portfolios had a good week. Hopefully you had a good week in your lives. Thank you to all the members, especially thanks to everybody that joined us, but thanks to the members for tuning in. Thank you, George.
Thank you, Tom.
Your thoughts and your
now,
singing.
Tell me about this thing tomorrow.
I don't know anything about this thing tomorrow, so I'm going to have to look into it tonight and figure out what it is. It's a Spaces, I guess.
Who hosts it? Who to be hosting in it?
I don't know. I'm guessing it's either
You
Sebastian
don't have a time?
or I'm
You have a
sure
time?
there's something in either my email or on Twitter or X that's waiting for me to go look and figure out what I'm supposed to do. So that will be my homework.
Put me in it. I'll have fun with these guys.
I will, whatever
You don't
I
know
got
nothing.
out for.
You're just making this stuff up. Sorry.
Oh boy, I'm sure they're
I'll be filling in for BitBoy. I'll be filling in for BitBoy tomorrow. Look at guys. Okay.
All right. So everybody have a great night. Have a fantastic weekend. And thanks for joining us. To the members, we'll see you Tuesday on the members only live stream.
See you, sir.
Good night.
See you guys. Good night. Goodbye. What? You're still here?